Hey everybody, Crow back again with another Evercade video, and this time we're going to be looking at the games in the Interplay Collection 1. Now, if you don't know what the Evercade is this nifty, handy handheld device right here. Takes cartridges, so this is a cartridge basically containing 6 games from Interplay, and this runs about $20 as all the Evercade games do. And what I usually like to do here is what I've done is I've played the games, I've ranked them, and I'll come up with a final average score at the end of this. So if you're curious how I rank these, basically I rate the games on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being what I feel to be a great game, 4 being a good game, but you know, it's a game that I'd like to play but I think could use a little bit of work. 3 is what I consider to be an okay game, you know, I go neither one way or the other on it. 2 being a poor game, a game that I kind of don't like but I can still see some merits in it and maybe even go back to play it. And a 1 is just a flat out bad game, a game I don't ever want to go back to or play or whatever. And these are just my own personal opinions. I'm not coming at this from like a public sort of view, not like, oh, this is like the common consensus of the game. This is just purely my opinion based on what I've played in these games. So I've done the Atari Collection 1, the Data East Collection 1, and now with this, the Interplay Collection 1, we'll be looking at the final cartridge that came in my Evercade Premium Bundle. So let's get into it. Let's start looking at the first game on this cart. Game 1 is Battle Chess. This is the 8-bit NES version that was released in 1988. Despite the name of the game, Battle Chess is just a normal game of chess. It's just that whenever one piece takes another, a humorous animation will take place that shows the one piece getting destroyed by the other piece. There's nothing you could do about it, and the animations are the same every time, although the animations for one piece taking another vary from piece to piece, so there's a whole bunch of different combinations there. But yeah, this is just a normal game of chess otherwise. Now, it came out on many platforms. It's just that the only home consoles this game came out on was the NES and the 3DO. And although I'm sure we would have all preferred to have seen the 3DO version here, we're kind of stuck with the NES version, which really isn't the best version of the game. I mean, almost any other version would have been better than the NES version, I feel. But I feel it was okay. Now, when you're playing the game, and let me just say that I know how to play chess, but I don't know any of the strategies or anything, so I always lose at chess. But as I was playing against the computer, I realized that as I was making my moves and the characters were walking across the screen, it really didn't matter how slow they were moving because I would always be looking and planning ahead and strategizing. So it really didn't matter to me that the pieces were moving really slow. And the NES version is just a little bit different than all the other versions I've seen of Battle Chess, because usually in all those other versions, the fights take place on the chessboard. But in the NES version, those pieces get teleported away and they fight in their own battlefield. And that takes a little bit of additional time to watch them teleport away and then fight, and then the winner teleports back. So yeah, it's very slow, but chess is a slow game to begin with, and if you're playing it, you really don't notice how slow it is. But also, if you don't want to watch the pieces fight, you could just switch to a 2D mode, and that way you're just playing a normal game of chess. You don't have to wait for the walking animations, you don't have to watch them fight, and you're just playing a normal game of chess. But I feel that takes all the charm out of the game. But you could do that if you want. Now, before I actually started playing it, I was all ready to say, okay, this is a 3, it's just okay. But after playing a game or two, I was thinking, you know what, this is better than I remember. So I'm going to give this one a 4. It's good. Game 2 is Boogerman. This is a 16-bit Genesis game that was originally released in 1995. And I was aware of this game, and I actually owned this game at one point, but I don't think I ever played it. So this was my first time actually playing the game. I didn't know what to expect. All I was expecting was this fat, gross superhero guy that flicked his boogers and farted and burped at the monsters. And that's exactly what it is. But you know what? This is better than the premise would have you believe it is. The whole plot of this game is something ridiculous that some mad scientist, doctor or whatever, has discovered a way to eliminate Earth's pollution by sending it to another dimension, while some being from that other dimension steals the device that is used to send the pollution to that dimension. So this gross, weird millionaire guy pretends to be a janitor at the doctor's lab, and that happens to be Boogerman himself. And when he sees something's up, he travels to the other dimension, which is a land of farts, boogers, and all this other gross stuff or whatever. And he fights boogers with boogers, I guess. So yeah, the game is pretty easy to pick up and play. You pick your boogers, you fart at the monsters, you dig through piles of trash for power-ups. It could seem to be a little bit repetitive, but every few levels there is a boss to fight, and they're all very well animated as well. There's a lot of voices in the game, I feel, for a Genesis game. And I'd say with the Evercade, you could definitely abuse the save states, and I was able to beat the game in about 2 or 3 hours. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting game, more so than it has any right to be, I think. But it's not perfect. There are some instances where things are in the background, but you think they'll affect you, but they really don't. Like, especially in the first couple levels, there's these like plants with teeth in the background that are constantly biting, and you think they'll hurt you, but they won't. The trees with faces you think mean something, but nope, it's just background decor. And sometimes enemies could get lost, behind foreground objects, that kind of thing. But I'm going to have to give this one a 4. It was better than I thought it was going to be, but it's not really a fantastic game by any means.
Aha! You stink, Boogerman! Uh-oh.
Game 3 is Clay Fighter. This is the 16-bit Super Nintendo version that was released in 1993. I remember this game was also released on the Genesis. And I feel that this game was brought about because, Street Fighter was popular, Mortal Kombat was popular, and the folks who designed the game said to themselves, you know what, let's make a fighting game, but make it aimed more for kids. So what can we do to make it like Street Fighter and like Mortal Kombat is, hey, why don't we digitize clay figures, and voila, we have Clay Fighter. So we do have a roster of, I think it was 8 characters, and you know what, this is kind of a subpar fighting game in a way. I mean, it's not really balanced at all, but you know what, it could still have a bit of fun with it. I remember renting this one back in the day and being a bit underwhelmed by it even back then. Although the clay animations were pretty cool and interesting, there is a bit of creativity here. In fact, that theme song is fantastic. I turned this on just to listen to the theme song. But I do remember when I rented this, I figured out that if I took the blob and just did the buzzsaw all the time, it was a good way to win. And sure enough, I did that. Now, I was playing on easy. I don't know if I'd go to normal and play it and see if anything different. But yeah, just spamming a lot of moves over and over again seemed to work against a computer. And yeah, this is the Evercade version. You can't really play against somebody. And if that were the case, maybe I'd rate it a little bit higher. But as such, I think I'm going to give this one a 3. It's just okay. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's good either. Game 4 is Earthworm Jim. This is the 16-bit Genesis version, released in 1993. I do remember this was also on Super Nintendo and Sega CD, and I believe between the Super Nintendo and the Genesis version, a lot of people will say, yeah, the Genesis version is better, though I don't really know what the differences is, but I guess that's why the Genesis version is on the Evercade, because supposedly it's the better version. Now, going into this, all I really remember is renting Earthworm Jim for the Super Nintendo, finding it pretty difficult, not really getting very far in the game before I had to return it, and kind of just forgetting about it. I mean, not forgetting about Earthworm Jim, he was everywhere, but not really being even lukewarm on the game itself, even though there's a lot of people out there will tell you how great the game is. So I came into this one armed with the save states of the Evercade, kind of learning the game that way, save state, loading, save state, loading, loading, because I died too many times in a certain spot to figure things out. And I was really impressed with this game, actually getting a bit farther into it than I had in the past. And this game honestly reminded me of another game that I liked, and that was Battletoads on the NES. Sure, that game was difficult, but I enjoyed playing it. And Earthworm Jim here can be difficult at times as well, but I really enjoyed playing it, and there seemed to be a lot of variety in the gameplay. The whole plot is that a power suit falls to Earth. I believe that's the plot. A power suit falls to Earth, an earthworm named Jim finds the power suit, and bam, he becomes Earthworm Jim. So they play with that idea a lot in the game, where sometimes you'll get separated from the suit and you have to play as just a worm to get your way back to the suit. There's a ton of vivid, colorful characters in the game, like Psycrow when you're racing him from area to area. There's Evil the cat. There's the cow you launch at the beginning. It's just a really wacky, bizarre game, and I can really get into it. And it doesn't seem to be a short game either. I mean, even abusing the save states, I only got so far where I was like, okay, I got to stop playing this and take a break. I could not stop playing this game. This is an absolute 5 out of 5. It's a fantastic game. Game 5 is Incantation. This is a 16-bit Super Nintendo game that was released in 1996. Yes, this was a very, very late Super Nintendo release. In fact, I didn't even really hear of this game before. I was thinking, oh, was this some sort of prototype game that was never released? No, I looked it up. This game actually was released in the US. I thought maybe it was only a European release or something, but no, yeah, it was released in the US. I just never heard of it. This is a game where you play like a short wizard that runs around and shoots magic from his wand. And in order to complete every level, you have to find 3 pieces of wheat to pay the troll toll. Oh man, troll toll, huh?
Troll toll. What'd you say? Troll toll.
And then once you get past the toll, you have to fight the boss of that level and move on. Now, I will say that this game is pretty fun to play in a way where you do get a lot of different magical abilities, but there's just some things about the game that I don't like. I don't like the little orbs that you hit that'll teleport you somewhere else. So if you accidentally shoot and hit an orb, bam, you get teleported somewhere, even if maybe if you don't want to. And also there is a boss literally at the end of every stage, and because of that, a lot of the bosses get repeated again and again. And it can be a little bit frustrating when you do make it to the end of the level, but you didn't find all the pieces of wheat, so you have to backtrack and find what you didn't find. But you know what? It really isn't a bad game. It just seems like something that needed a bit of work. Maybe this seems like it was rushed a bit. But it could have been better, I feel. So it's not a great game, but I'm going to give this one a 4. It definitely is good. It's better than okay. And the sixth and final game is Titan. This is an 8-bit NES title that was released in 1988. And I was thinking to myself, I never heard of this game. Was this a prototype that was never released or something? But no. It turns out this really isn't an NES title. This was only released in Japan, so this is a Famicom title. Now, I was playing this game, it was pretty weird. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like playing Breakout, but in a fenced-in arena where you have kind of a square that you could use to redirect the ball into kind of force it into the blocks you want to destroy. And you basically pass the level by either destroying all the blocks or getting the ball into the exit square if it exists in that level. And as you move on, there's just more and more obstacles that get in your way. Sometimes there's death squares where if you or the ball touch them, you have to restart the level. And of course, you've got the bricks that take multiple hits to get rid of. Later on, there's bricks that move. There's death spots that move. Sometimes it can be pretty tedious to play too, because if you're having trouble getting the ball to get to where you want it to go. But as you play it more and more, it gets a little bit easier to play, although some of the levels can get so huge, it can take quite a while to get through. But, thanks to the Evercade and the save states, I would just save state between every level, and that way you don't even have to use the password system. But also, if the level's taking way too long to finish, you just save state and come back to it later. And I think this game is better on the Evercade than it would have been on the NES because of that. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And also, they say this is a puzzle game, but I really don't think you need to use a whole lot of brain power, at least not for the first 20 levels, which is basically how much I played of it, because you're just kind of, bouncing the ball around trying to get it to go into certain areas. And when you get tired of it, just save state, quit, come back to it later. It's good in short bursts, I think. And you know what? It's a pretty unique game. You don't see this kind of concept very often. Well, you do see Breakout a lot, but this is kind of a unique take on that. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a 4. I'd say it's pretty good. Not great by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, it's good. And that's it for Interplay Collection 1. I think on average all these games are pretty much good. If you look at the scoring that I gave the 6 games, 4 of them I gave a good rating to. One of them was clearly a standout and I gave a 5. And the other one I feel was just kind of mediocre and I gave a 3. And if you average all those scores out, it's just going to get a 4 overall, which isn't bad. I can see myself going back and playing just about any single one of these games. Now, I really had a good time playing all these games on Interplay Collection 1, the Atari Collection 1, and the Data East Collection 1, and I'm definitely going to get more cartridges. I do have more cartridges, but I have more coming. I want to collect them all as they were. They're not that expensive, and I'm really looking forward to playing more of them. And I think I want to do these in order, and what I mean by order is each cartridge has a number. Atari Collection was 1, Daddy East Collection was 3, and Interplay Collection is 4. That means that I should really do Namco Museum Collection 1 next. That was the number 2 cartridge, but I don't have it yet. But it's on its way. It's literally in the mail as I speak. So I think that's going to be the next one. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.